Hi guys, Tom here. Today's project is looking at this little piece. Probably wondering, what is this? So it's a pipe that apparently goes to the exhaust side of the little Boom Vader engine, but what is it for? Here it is. If you've done any carburetor upgrades or airbox deletes, you'll probably find this contraption sometimes just magically just falls off. But what is it? All right, guys, having some technical issues in the garage with lighting and autofocus. So what I want to do is just cover something real quick about this device. This is the device that came off the motorcycle. A lot of times you'll see this on a lot of forums or groups out there in discussion, and they'll call it an EGR valve. And if you see that, just understand it, they're talking about this device. So it's not really an EGR valve or an exhaust gas recirculation system as kind of outlined in the owner's manual. So I highlighted some of the lines that are associated with this, what they're calling an air injection system. A line is coming off the airbox, going to this control device with a short tube right here, and then it goes down to the exhaust side of the engine. So they're calling it an air injection system, which makes sense since air seems to be going through and being injected into the exhaust side. Now, I'm not really sure why, but I do suspect it's the catalytic converter that you can't see in this drawing, since a little bit of extra oxygen might be needed so the catalytic converter can burn off unused fuel for emission control. So that's just a quick thing. Air injection system, sometimes called an EGR valve. Let's get back to the garage and finish off that little mod. What we're going to do with that? Some people just keep it. They put little things on top of them. But if you ever do an upgrade and you don't take this step to plug that hole, wow, it gets loud. It actually blows exhaust gas right out of it. It's interesting. So what I did was I plugged it with some two-step epoxy, and it's actually done a really good job. A lot of people don't like the look of this tube. So what are we going to do about it? I've been living with it for quite a while, plugged up. However, today we're going to make some changes. Some options are just cut this shorter and put more putty inside of it. Now it's time to cut it. So here I am, just with a hacksaw. I'm going to try to see if I can just cut it. That's it. So I could just take some two-step epoxy, stick it right into this little port, and now I don't have that unicorn-looking horn sticking out of my engine. But we can go a step further and remove this and maybe blank it off. All right, so from a different angle, you can see we could probably just fill this up with some putty and move on. But there's two 8mm bolts that we can remove here and see what else we can do with this system. So let's take this plate off. One bolt. Second bolt. Now this is the plate, the little hose connection. So it does have a gasket. You can see a small gasket right here that's like falling off. What we can do is fill as much of this with putty and reattach it. Or crimp it over and clamp it and crush this to prevent any exhaust gases from leaking out. Now some people really want the clean look and they don't want anything projecting out at all. So let's see what our options are going forward. So they usually go online and get a blank that they can install over the section that completely cleans up the look. That's a couple bucks online, but I think I have a 25-cent solution today. That's right. A quarter fits right between these two bolt holes. So I'm thinking that we can put a little RTV on here. And just put one of the bolts in so we can hold one side of the quarter down to get it in place. Now we're going to load up with a little RTV. Of course, this RTV is sitting in a very cold garage, so It's moving like molasses. All right, that should be enough. Try to center it as best as possible. You see some of the RTV squeezing through. Definitely have enough on there. I'm going to put the second bolt in. Just tighten down these bolts. And that's it. Now I didn't crank down on these two bolts. I'm going to give it 1 hour to set up. Then we're going to do the final tightening. And it takes about 24 hours for the RTV to fully cure. All right, so it's been long enough. I'm just going to give a final little crank. Just tighten it down. And there we go. So hopefully we should have no leakage. We're going to do a little test run. I'm going to start the bike up and then see if there's any gases coming out. Engine's running. Don't feel anything blowing out. Exhaust is getting hot. Wow. This is pretty cool. I'm just going to shut it off. I think that was an excellent test. I think this is a great cheap solution to getting rid of that weird looking unicorn thing. So now this is covered up. It'll be fully cured over time. And wow, thanks for following along. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. And I appreciate your time. Be safe.